Sowers of Thunder by Anthony Roberts. Giants in Myth and History. A serious book about giants is long overdue, and the current work is a modest attempt to partially fill the gap. The word giant is one to conjure with on a variety of levels, yet it can be crystallized into three basic tiers of recognition. On one level, it is used to designate anyone or anything having outstanding qualities transcending the everyday routines of life and transforming reality into something awe-inspiring, rich, and intellectually enlightening. A giant in his field is the natural accolade applied to anyone who contributes some outstanding work of philosophy, medicine, literature, or science to the sum total of humanity's continuing experience of existence. As such, the word carries a powerful aura of respect. It is a term that, in its purest meaning, carries no taint of obloquy or insult. It is really traditional poetic praise. But there are other more disturbing overtones, for giants can be potent and dangerous magic when viewed through the kaleidoscope of myth. On a second psychological level, the word symbolizes a vital, primordial strength and dignity, a fundamental power point of the carefully designed human psyche. Giants exist among the major archetypes of the Jungian analysis. Elemental giant power can be deadly and uncontrollable, but rationalized and spread through all the layers of unfolding consciousness. The imagery is transformed into a stabilizing, reassuring influence on the human mind, fertilizing it with a ceaseless flow of invoked ancient energy. This energy, which possibly derives from the divine power of the universal beings, the gods, reaches into the collective unconscious of the whole species, for everyone has a giant inside them, in the depths of their minds, who can provide confidence and power for the external ordering of their lives. This strength and power gives a polarizing dynamic to the very structure of balanced, harmonious consciousness, and helps to establish the giant concept as a foremost symbol of psychology. In this sense, giants are clear representations of genuine psychic magic, but the once common knowledge of the magically symbolic giant has been dissipated, and today is understood on an intuitive level only by a few enlightened magicians, psychiatrists, and historians. The third tier of recognition is that of a physical being who towers above his fellow creatures. This entails the triggering of genes that push life up to incredible heights of corporeal existence. Historical evidence for the physical giants is abundant and far-flung, the implications being global or even extraterrestrial rather than confined to a few obscure folk tales. Knowledgeable students of myth have always recognized the vital position held by giants in the general mythological canon. The giants' importance stems from their role as significant power symbols, existing at the very deepest roots of mythic history. Everyone is fascinated by the question of whether races of mighty beings once roamed the earth, shaping the landscape and building the huge enclaves of earth and stone, which are still associated with their name. Such legends are universal. Often they point to magical and meteorological phenomena, crediting the giants with a definite, if dangerous, supernatural ability. The giants were thought to have had an empathy with the mystic energies that created life, and as a result, they assumed almost elemental proportions in the fertile minds of the ancient chroniclers. Nevertheless, giants are also remembered as having a totally physical reality as well. Both the seemingly divergent historical memories can be reconciled if the legends are married to certain obscure topographical and anthropological data. Such a marriage is attempted in this book. It can safely be said that such unions are rare in the annals of literature, and the reader must be prepared to experience a severe stimulus to the imagination. In this day and age, this is definitely not necessarily a bad thing. Giants are often tied into the body of folklore through key figures who form mythical yet sociological potent focal points in the general schema. These figures are precursors of all later heroic creations, and they all partake of certain magical characteristics that endow them with pronouncedly organic supernatural powers. In Indian or Asian mythology, giant raven flies through the air in a vimana, aerial car, and tosses thunder and lightning in all directions. He stemmed from a race of giants listed in the Ramayana as thunderous Rakshasas. In the Norse sagas, giant Nir is the thunder of father of creation. He is the lord of Jotun, the frost giants, whose energizing blood runs over the earth, invigorating the roots of the world tree and bringing life into a void. In Polynesia, the archetypal creation giant is Kontiki Viracocha, a definite living being who came to the islands from the direction of South America, bringing all the benefits of agriculture and building to the Central Pacific habitat. The older Polynesian myths express suitable awe and respect. Closer to home, the early Celtic mythos look to the giant Hugadarn, who was said to have been wise with all knowledge, and Bran the Blessed, a giant with pronounced oracular and military prowess. Both are sometimes remembered as gods. Beyond all the fanciful embroidery, there is a strong possibility that giants are dim images, reflecting from a once bright historical illumination of great cultural advancement. The most important giants are always the earliest, and they never evince the brutal characteristics of cannibal-like savagery that are ascribed to their much later historical counterparts. Mythological giants are accredited with a complete range of cultural traits, including skilled architectural ability, military might, great craftsmanship in the arts, and a different language from the rest of Homo sapiens. The Old English rhyme, fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, descends from the earlier Celtic saga of Jack the Giant Killer, and it is spoken, of course, by a giant who is inimical to the human beings who have invaded his territory. Etymologically, the words fee, fi, fo, fum fit no known language past or present, and many researchers into the philology of myth suspect that they are remnants from a lost prehistoric language older than even the Aryan Indo-European tongue. In so-called factual history, the mysterious Cro-Magnon people, who inhabited all northern Europe from around 25,000 BC, were on average a very tall race indeed. They ranged from 5-10 inches to 6 feet 8 inches, with many being much taller. In the Grimaldi caverns near Mentone, northern Italy, Cro-Magnon skeletons measuring between 6 and 7 feet have been disinterred, and their brains were also significantly larger than those of contemporary human beings. The average Cro-Magnon brain was between 1590 to 1750 cubic centimeters, while the brain of a normal modern adult is 1400 cubic centimeters. The Cro-Magnon giants have left a great deal of evidence indicating sophisticated astronomical, religious, and artistic perceptions, and much of this evidence has recently been elucidated in the work of such men as Alexander Marshak and Professor Paoli Graziosi. What pries the theory of evolution here? If giants are to be recognized as having any historical veracity, there is an obvious need for synthesis of many branches of learning. The purpose of this book is to act as a preface to that general synthesis. Most of the material contained within the following pages deals with the British Isles, but where necessary the information is fleshed out with back-up evidence drawn from a wide variety of world myths. Running parallel with these myths is the thematic counterpoint of the giants' physical presence, and this blends neatly into their association with the strange prehistoric monuments that carry their name. References to giants in the legends of the British Isles are unusually prolific, but sadly, they are diminished in the content, and only a part of them can be recounted here. Bearing this in mind, it will be seen that they form a microcosm of the subject that gives a perfect grounding for greater amplification into further research. One final point remains to be made. This book is really a work of alternative scholarship, and therefore much of its emphasis is biased towards a view of history that is esoteric and cyclic rather than deterministic and linear. Works of alternative scholarship range from the scientifically Baroque excesses of Velikovsky and von Daniken to the more lucid mystical expositions of Andrew Thomas and John Michel. The author is a disciple of the latter school, and he is also possessed of a decidedly ironic sense of humor, something which no writer dealing with esoteric subjects should ever be without. It is sincerely hoped that the Sowers of Thunder will both inform and entertain the reader. However, the underlying seriousness of its subject matter is meant to provoke a new look at the images and themes that make up the dimensions of history as a magical whole. End Part 1. Sowers of Thunder by Anthony Roberts.